back. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie live from Buckingham Palace on Coronation Day.
Yes, so it's all about marking this. And I'll tell you what's interesting about big events like this. The papers always try to make them sort of souvenir editions, don't they? Things that you will want to keep. So let's see what they've done this time round. Let's kick off with the Daily Mail, should we, and see what they've done for us. Interesting, I don't know. This is a picture of 20-year-old Charles when he became Prince of Wales back in 1969. They call it his day of destiny today. Now, I don't know if I'd have gone with that.
No.
I think I would have gone with something a bit more modern.
Yes, or something, you know, a good profile shot of his face now, I think you'd go with. The Express features the 700-year-old coronation chair where King Charles will be crowned. That's something totally different.
Can I just give you a fact about the coronation chair?
Yes, please do.
Oh, the picture's gone. We might be able to bring it back. Where are we?
We've got a long list.
Queen Elizabeth II was not the only person who occupied the coronation chair on her coronation day. On the morning of the coronation, a black cat called Matins was sleeping in the chair in Westminster Abbey. So there you
Trust
go.
a cat.
I like that one.
A cheeky cat. I thought you'd like that one. The Sun focuses on his and hers crowns for Charles and the soon-to-be Queen Camilla.
Yeah, which is nice, I think. The Mirror says Charles will not only wear the crown, he will also bear the weight of history and the hopes of a nation.
See, I really like that as a headline. I think that really captures the weight of today. So it's the weight of the crown and also the weight of history, really, on his shoulders.
Oh, yeah. Proper history books time, all this.
Really is.
Let's see what our guests make of it all this morning. Today, we're joined by Kevin Schofield and Cindy Yu. Really good to see you both this morning. On this coronation day, Kevin, let's start with the eyes, should we?
I've done a poll to mark the day in which they've found that there is still a slim majority in favour of the monarchy. 52% of people are in favour of the royal family, but 23% aren't. But what I think was most interesting is that support for the monarchy has slipped a bit since the Queen died. Around about 25% of people say they've become less supportive of the royal family since Charles became king, effectively. And there's also very interesting a generational divide. Strong support for the monarchy among over 65s, but in the 18 to 24 age bracket, support nowhere near as high. So the eye interpreting this is that the king has got a challenge on his hands. Basically, after today, he now has to work at increasing support amongst the public for the entire institution of the royal family.
I don't know if I agree with that, you know, in the sense that there's bound to be a bit of a people don't like change, and obviously losing the Queen was sort of traumatic for the nation, if you like. But it all evolves, doesn't it, Kevin? This is all an evolution, and some people need a bit more time to get used to it all.
Yeah, I mean, opinion isn't static, you're right. I mean, people, and I think a lot of those younger people in that age group, probably as they get older, they'll probably move into the pro-monarchy category, because people's views obviously change as they get older. And you're right, I think a lot of people were big fans of the Queen, you know, maybe not so much of the royal family as a whole, but of the Queen herself. People liked her. She'd been the Queen for most of us in our entire lives. So I think it was inevitable, really, that once the Queen departed, that probably overall support would slip slightly. But I mean, I don't think it's anything for the royal family to get overly concerned about, but it is interesting, I think, one to keep an eye on over time, whether it is a permanent shift in public opinion.
I mean, Cindy, we've been talking about the weight of history on King Charles III's shoulders today, but he will feel this weight of the future of the monarchy on his shoulders as well. He will be aware of public perception and keeping them on side and keeping them supporting the royal family. Do you think he should do what his late mother did, which was almost the moment that crown was put on her head, she went on that Commonwealth tour around the world?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea, or even just around the country as well. I mean, I think it was interesting is that this week with this whole row about whether or not the country should be declaring allegiance to the king, which the king is now saying that he doesn't want that anymore. A lot of the things that I was hearing was saying, well, the Queen wouldn't have asked for this. The Queen would have pledged allegiance to us, so directly comparing Charles to his late mother. And so he does have very, very big shoes to fill. And I think not everyone is automatically convinced. On the Spectator's YouTube channel, Spectator TV this week, we interviewed some anti-monarchist protesters who are going to be there close to you today protesting. And they were saying that actually for them, a lot of people have come to them in support after the Queen died, because for them, the Queen was the monarchy, and now that there's someone else, they don't see what the point of it is anymore. So that's the drop in support that Kevin is talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mind you, they might get a bit more support because we're all animal lovers, and we'll all enjoy seeing Seamus today, won't we? This is in the Star, Cindy.
Yeah, I'm very much enjoying seeing Seamus here. I mean, you had a lovely picture of him up as well. Irish Wolfhound, which is the mascot of the Irish Guard, so it'll be part of the processions today. And I have to say, at the Spectator, our office is back onto very close to Buckingham Palace. So sometimes we see the Irish Guard practicing on Birdcage Walk, and we often have seen Seamus in the past as well. And he's a lovely dog.
Yeah, mind you, it also goes on to say, doesn't it, in the Star, that we're going to drink 130 million pints of beer this weekend, which sounds very British.
Yeah, it does. Any excuse.
Which I quite like. Any excuse, why not?
Well, the hospitality sector will be really grateful for that after a really tough few months. Kevin, let's go to something totally different now. In The Guardian, we have to talk about the local elections. A crushing result for the Tories they've gone with.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, ordinarily, a result like yesterday for the Conservatives would have been splashed across every front page going. So I think the royal family have done Rishi Sunak a massive favour, actually, by having the coronation today, because in a way, I mean, the Guardian are pretty much an exception. They've still got it on the front page, but a lot of papers, it's deep inside the paper that actually what happened yesterday, and it was a hugely significant day, really. I mean, the Conservatives had been telling us before the election that, they were pointing us towards this prediction of 1,000 seats, but thinking there's no chance, it's called expectation management, there's absolutely no chance they'll lose as many as that. In actual fact, they lost just over 1,000. It was the worst possible scenario from a Conservative Party point of view, and it's fascinating, really. That's 6 months now Rishi Sunak has been Prime Minister. He's had time to bed in. We were being told that the polls have narrowed, that there's been a bit of a Rishi Sunak bounce. Precious little, actually zero evidence for that yesterday. Now, the flip side, the one sort of hope that the Tories can cling to is that Labour didn't massively capitalise on it. The anti-Tory vote was split. I mean, Labour were the largest opposition party, but the Lib Dems had a very good night. The Green Party had a very good night as well. But there's no doubt that with probably 18 months to go to the next general election, Rishi Sunak has really got his work cut out to try and turn things around for the Conservatives.
Cindy, the Financial Times is covering this as well. Doesn't it make you a bit fed up of politicians, though, with all of this? I mean, the Tories have said, oh, well, it wasn't, it's disappointing, but, this is just the way it goes. The Labour Party, Keir Starmer said, oh, we've got enough to win a general election now, even though the experts say that isn't the case. And the Lib Dems have come out, Ed Davey, and saying, oh, well, the Lib Dems are the clear winners of the local elections. I mean, you can't believe any of them, can you?
No, I think some of it is for party loyalists and domestic consumption, as it were. I mean, we are getting into election footing now. This is the last time and the biggest time before the actual national election next year, where we'll really see what voting intentions are outside of polling context. And I think, the Conservatives, I mean, to some extent, we have been able to see through expectation management. As Kevin said, this Conservative idea that they would lose 1,000 seats that was put out last week. Everyone said, that's obviously expectation management. Well, actually, that is what happened, and you can see how disappointed they were, so that they themselves knew what was just expectation management and what was actually to be expected, and they did worse than they expected. But I think Kevin's point about whether or not actually Labour would win an outright majority on a national level is a really important one. It's looking like if these results are replicated, they'll need the Lib Dems in a coalition as well. So that throws open, I think, a lot of different possibilities.
What do you think these results were down to, Kevin? I mean, there's Labour talking this morning saying it's rejection of Rishi Sunak. We had Conservative councillors yesterday blaming the goings-on in Westminster to what we saw happening locally. Or is this just midterm blues?
I think it's a bit worse than midterm blues. I did speak to one Conservative candidate actually who lost their seat, and they were saying that they were blaming the National Party for it. They were saying that things like culture war issues that you've seen a lot of senior Conservatives pushing, that just did not register on the doorsteps. People wanted their potholes fixed, for instance, and they think the Conservatives have been in power for 13 years. They look around, things don't seem any better. If anything, things are a lot worse. So they wanted to really give the government a kicking, and I think that's the one thing that Rishi Sunak can't run away from, is the fact that the Tories have been in power for a very long time, and people just, it's just the way of the world. People get fed up of the same party being in power, and they decide that they want a change. Now the question is though, how convinced are they by the Labour Party? And as Cindy says, at the moment it looks as though the Labour Party would probably fall just a little bit short of an overall majority, and would need support from the Liberal Democrats, maybe other minority parties, to prop up potentially a minority Labour government. So that's what makes it so interesting. But yeah, as I said earlier, Rishi Sunak really got his work cut out now.
Yeah, he has. I'll tell you what, can we have a look at the Mail, Cindy, where the WHO, the World Health Organization, said COVID-19 is no longer a global emergency.
Yep, so yesterday the Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said that actually he would be recommended that the COVID is not declared a public health emergency anymore. And what we're looking at the moment is that the death rate peaked at 100,000 people per week. This is globally in January 2021. And in the last week of April, it was only 3,500 people who died globally from COVID. So I think what we're seeing now is that it's become endemic to the world. It's just one of those viruses we're going to have to live with for the rest of probably humanity's future. And actually that a lot of people have had immunity, or have not. Those who haven't had immunity have got it and unfortunately passed away. So the worst of it is over. And I think, this is again one of those stories where if the coronation was not a massive story today, it is quite a moment to mark that 3 years of this, 3.5 years now of this thing, and we're finally deciding that it's not emergency status anymore.
Oh, thank heavens for
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it is a relief, isn't it, Kevin? In the depths of 2020 and 2021, you almost felt like you'd never see this day.
Absolutely, I remember it very well. I mean, it obviously the first pandemic in 100 years. We didn't know really what to expect, what was going to come next, and every day seemed to be worse than the day before. Lockdowns, people dying, hospitals filling up. It was a nightmare, basically. So it's great that we've finally got to this point, and it's amazing really when you look around now. It's almost like it never happened. In London, you're on the tube in the morning, it's very busy. Again, no one wears a mask, and you just think back, you compare that to 2 or 3 years ago, and it's just unrecognisable, and hopefully we don't ever have to go back to those horrible days.
No, let's hope not. Queuing to get in the supermarket and all that sort of thing. You forget. It's easily forgotten just how grim it was. Kevin, let's have a look at the Telegraph, should we? And the Wagner Group. Anything surrounding the Wagner Group is very interesting, isn't it? Because it's a sort of Russian mercenary group, but it's been described by some people as Putin's private army.
Yeah, exactly. So they've been used to supplement the regular Russian military forces right since the beginning of the invasion, and have been very effective. They're a particularly brutal organisation. However, there has been discord now for quite some time between the leader of the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who has said that they don't have enough ammunition, and that they are threatening now to pull out of Bakhmut. Now that is a key town that's been fought over for quite some months now. And, you know, if the Wagner Group were to pull out, then that would obviously put huge pressure on the regular Russian forces. However, one health warning is that there's a suggestion that this might actually be a psyops or tactic, as it's known as. This may be a trick to try and convince the Ukrainians that that the Russians are pulling out, or that the Wagner Group is pulling out, to try and suck them in and then attack them. So it's been taken with a little bit of caution, but I think, you know, it's a significant, if indeed they make good on this promise to pull out of Bakhmut unless they get more ammunition, then I think that could be a significant moment in the war, and it could tip things back in favour of the Ukrainians.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed on that one, but as you say, it's a difficult one to judge. Look, just before we let you go for this hour, what are you two planning for the coronation day? Are you staying at home? Are you going to watch it on the TV? What's the plan, Cindy?
Well, as soon as you guys let me go here, I'm going to go home and have a nap and try to get as much sleep in as possible before the coronation starts, then I'll watch it on TV.
I was just explaining there. Actually, my daughter's friend is having a birthday party, and I have to take her and her 3 friends on a 45-minute drive to Slough while it's all happening. So I won't be able to watch it because I'm being the dad taxi to take, as I say, my daughter and her pals to a birthday party. So it's not been very well organised.
Well, you're very good.
The good news is, Kevin, on the GB News app or on the YouTube, our YouTube channel, you can rewind it and watch it all then. So there's no excuse for missing out. We'll catch up with you both a little bit later on.
Or he can listen to it on the radio, can't he?
He could while he's
GBNEWS
driving.
on the radio whilst he's driving, listen to it live. Exactly. You've got no excuse. You can take us with you absolutely everywhere today. So do let us know if you're watching us today and where you're watching or listening to us from. GB News at gbnews.uk.